Welcome back to the channel. This is the all-new Yeti LTe. I have a bunch more videos coming with the LTe, so don't forget to subscribe. And if you need anything for yourself or your ride, check out Jensen USA and the other affiliate links on my channel's page. Now let's get into it. So this is a full power long travel eMTB to replace the old 160. The bike I'm riding is a $13,000 Butte with the Bosch CX motor, 800 watt-hour battery, SRAM XO transmission, the new Fox Factory Float X2, Factory 38 with Maven silver brakes, and the Carbon DT Swiss wheels. It's not a drastically different bike, but the changes are important and make a pretty big difference. The LTe received much of what's on the new MTe, but let's go through that. It's running Yeti's Sixfinity suspension, which is a true 6-bar design and allows Yeti to tune anti-rise and anti-squat independent of each other. It still has 3 leverage rate options ranging from 25% to 35%. Very similar frame protection, chain guide, and clamping cable ports make for a very quiet bike like the MTe. There are Vectrin plies in the carbon to help with the impacts from crashing in rocks. Finally, floating collet pivot axles to ensure perfect alignment and smooth suspension. So let's talk real quick about new e-bike stuff. Again, this is running the Bosch CX motor, which I really feel is the premier motor currently available when it comes to proven longevity, customer support, and power. That's 100 newton meters of torque, 750 watts of power coming from an 800 watt-hour battery. This one also gets the new Bosch kiosk screen, so if you like numbers, there you go. Geometry updates most noticeably include increased reach and stack, and a slacker head angle. Like the MTe, you also have the flip chip to run mixed wheels without compromising. It looks like Yeti checked all the boxes for this new bike, but let's get it out on the trail. I've been on the LTe for just about a month and have done 2 different range tests as well as ridden new and old trails all over the Pacific Northwest. We'll start with the fun stuff, as that's probably why most people are clicking on this video. I have to start by saying this is a heavy bike, and there are some downsides to that, no matter how good the suspension. In the chunk, similar to the MTe and Orbea Wild, this thing is a beast. While it does outperform the MTe at high speed, when things get really chunky, there's a bit of a trade-off. The MTe is happy to lift off and float over the chunkiest sections, but the added weight of the LTe keeps it on the ground. However, that's a place where I really found the progression flip chip to make a difference. In the lowest 25% setting, this thing hugs the ground and keeps going. I found early on that I liked the progressive 35% setting. After running it balanced, as Yeti calls it, in the 30% setting. It was that the 35% sag felt more lively and maneuverable, which really helps moving around this 52-pound monster. On a trail like Dark Crystal in Whistler, it's not exactly like it slowed me down, as much as the impacts sounded louder and you felt them more through your body.
Led me into it.
Bottoming out never felt too bad, but I was at the end of the stroke a lot when I was running the 25% progression. This jump, and this rock roll all used every bit of the LTe's 160 millimeters of travel. Checking out this graph of anti-rise, Yeti wanted to keep the geometry as predictable as possible without sacrificing braking, and I think they struck a really good balance. Getting into steeps, I haven't had a perfect record with the SRAM Mavens, but I can definitely say after 3 full power e-bikes in a row, they have the most power and gave me the most confidence.
I got this. All right, I'm doing my best to just drop it.
This bike is about 4 pounds heavier than the last 2 bikes, and I rode a number of features with more control and some new ones with all the confidence.
Oh, I got it. It's so grippy. Yeah. Woo! Yeah.
Woo! Back to how it handles steeps. The front end, while taller, is still lower than some new stuff, and the longish back end means you're centered, but not completely in the bike. I raised the front end after the first ride, but it wasn't until I converted it to a mullet that I really felt comfortable on the steep stuff.
Woo! Oh yeah, so good!
I'm giving it a 4 here, but would likely have put it at a 3 if I kept it as a dual two-niner. Next, let's talk about jumps. Well, it is long and heavy, and if we're talking about fast jumps and straight lines, it's fine. But like this jump or this drop, they have tight turns just before, and it was awkward straightening things out in the air.
Whoa.
On steeper takeoffs, it really needs that rear brake to dip the front end down. This is also where the 35% setting, as opposed to the 25%, made a big difference. So yes, I'm giving it a little bit below average rating for jumps, but I get the feeling that most people aren't looking for a bike like this to jump. Last in the corners, I make the distinction between quick turns and moving about the trail, as well as sweeping corners or off camera and berms. This is one of those bikes that nearly does it all. Again, the progression tuning makes a difference, especially with those quick and tight turns, but this is another place where the bike hides its weight well. So when it comes to descending, this bike hangs with the best e-bikes, but unfortunately where the MTe and Wild felt more natural, this still feels like an e-bike. So we already talked a bit about climbing, but let's dive deeper into that. Yeti sent over this graph for the anti-squat, and let's take a look real quick. And you can see it has a fair bit less anti-squat than the MTe, meaning it favors traction. First off, this Bosch motor is fast and powerful. Many of these motors are governed at 20 miles per hour, but with this much torque and power, you can climb closer to that 20 mph. Yeti tuned the Sixfinity suspension to have less anti-squat, favoring traction over efficiency. But when you have this much power, being able to put the power down is important, and in the saddle, you don't notice the drop in efficiency.
Found a different line. A little bit of a plop drop here. And then we'll go back.
At 5'11", the body position is a little stretched, but is something I prefer for longer rides, and I found it comfortable. You are also very centered, and while it's big and heavy, I was able to make my benchmark switchback first try, but that's not to say it was easy. Similar to the Orbea Wild, I was able to climb up things I never would have considered. What wasn't as great was the 4 extra pounds that made mistakes that much worse, and if I wasn't on it, momentum would send me off the trail just as easily as up it.
And repeat. Ah! Thanks, Todd.
1 minute video.
Because my Loam library isn't exactly focused on eMTBs, I'm not sure where to put it, but I would say the weight makes a difference. Let's take a look in the Loam library. For full power bikes, it's right up there with the Orbea Wild. The brakes made it slightly better in the steeps, and I would also give it the edge at speed and in the chunk. Jumping and cornering is the big trade-off, and where you'll have to decide which is more important.
All right, so finishing up the range test on my usual test tracks for the Yeti LTe. Riding with my friend here on an Amflow DJI bike, so good comparison there. Same battery size, 800 watts. And I did the loop completely and had 24% battery. So we're heading back up for another lap.
Yeah.
Down to 15%. What are you at? 9%. So I think we get a whole more lap out of this bike than the Orbea or the Transition Regulator CX. That's pretty cool.
On the subject of e-bike specs, let's talk range. Yes, you get more range. On my standard full power range test, I was able to get an extra lap, which is just about an extra 850 feet of climbing, ending the ride with 5% battery, so I would guess I could have made a full 1,000 feet of extra climbing. On a very different range test, I went about 7 miles further, but did about 250 less feet of climbing and got the battery down to 1%. Full gas, no stopping, it took about 2.5 hours to get from 100% to 1%. Check out those range test results here. I'm going to follow this video up with a video on range tests, as well as Yeti's new direct-to-consumer process, so please subscribe if you want to see it. First off, complaints. Weight is the biggest one. You can save nearly 2 pounds with the smaller 600 watt-hour battery, but that's still nearly 3 pounds heavier than the Transition Regulator, or 2 pounds more than the Orbea Wild. So where's all that weight coming from? I would also like to see a mixed wheel build from the factory. That is how I prefer the bike, and it would benefit shorter riders. When I was in Colorado riding the MTe, the employee bikes seemed all to be set at Mullet, so maybe that's coming. On the topic of things to come, price. The entry-level build is $10K, going nearly up to $15K, so that's no joke, and I'd like to see something maybe slightly cheaper or just a frame-only option. Similar to what I said about the MTe though, I can see and feel the price difference compared to the competition.
Got it.
Last complaint is what didn't make it through the test. I don't have a ton of experience with SRAM XO e-bike cranks, but they didn't make it till the end. Was it the LTE's extra heft or just bad luck? Either way, it's worth mentioning. I also roasted a tire, but it was a Michelin Enduro tire, and I generally run DH rear tires. Other than that, I couldn't find much at fault with the bike or the build. Now let's get into my final thoughts on who's the LTE for. Yeti often talks about being a racing first company, and after doing one eMTB race, I can definitely see how the bigger battery makes sense. I saw a lot of competition running out of battery midway through the race. So if you're looking to race your eMTB, be that against the clock or just your friends, this is a great option. The overall feel of the bike just screams go faster. It's one of those bikes that as long as you can hold on, it'll allow you to keep pushing. Smaller riders may find the extra weight a bit punishing. I've talked a little bit about racers using e-bikes to supplement training and save their legs. These new high-power bikes have an extra bonus. The speed they maintain on flatter trails is something you have to learn, and so they have the added benefit of helping you get more comfortable with speed. I also love these bikes for exploring. Any of my friends can tell you that there are two types of Nick rides, the ones where you get lost and the ones where you're scared. This one makes getting lost more manageable, and if you find those scary features, you'll have all the bike you need. Overall, if you want a new full-power e-bike that won't be outdone, the Yeti LTe is for you. The LTe was made for speed. Are you? Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. I have more videos coming with the LTe and that new Fox podium. If you need anything for yourself or your ride, check out Jensen USA, evo.com, Hover Air, and more. Affiliate links are in the description and on my channel's page. Now get out there, go fast, and take chances. See you next week.
Hi. Wow.
So good.
Boink.